Hello world, welcome to climate change emergency protest number 269. Holy cow, 269 of these. And this is January 17th, 2024. I'm speaking from home. It's been cold out. It's minus whatever Celsius, and it's 23 degrees right now Fahrenheit with wind chill of 4 or something or other. So it's not very pleasant out there. So this is January 17th, 2024. This is number 269, climate change emergency protest. Next week will be number 270, and that'll be on January 26, 2024. So 2023 was the hottest year on record. I talked about that last week. One group said it was 1.49 above the 1880 baseline. Add another 0.3 to get to the 1750 baseline, and you're looking at 1.8 degrees. However, Berkeley Earth says it's 1.54 degrees above the 1880 baseline. Add another 0.3, so you're 1.85. Degrees above the 1750 baseline year, the year 1750. So prior to this, it was 1.4 degrees was the highest ever. So now it's a 1.54, 1.6, whatever, 1.5. The United Nations said that we weren't going to exceed the 1.5 barrier at all. So we've done that, and we did that within the first 3 months after the COP28 was over with. So they don't know what they're talking about. They lose all validity when they just now talk about fossil fuels for the first time in 28 years and reducing them at earliest convenience with no repercussions if you don't. This is ludicrous what's going on. And I'm going to talk about that at the end, how the dumb kids in the class are controlling the classroom as opposed to the teachers and those who want to move forward and educate and get forward and start doing action. The dumb kids are leading around the world. This is insane what's going on. So Biden, another dumb kid, said that President Biden said that the United States has had a 12% reduction in carbon dioxide output since whatever, last 15 years. That's a total lie, because China and the rest of the world have picked up our slack because of NAFTA, which Biden was a part of, the North American Free Trade Agreement, shipped all of our jobs overseas. So along with the Republicans. So Democrats and Republicans were behind the whole thing. That was under Bill Clinton. Biden was a senator then. So they shipped all of our jobs overseas. So of course your carbon dioxide output goes lower because you have no manufacturing here. Everything's being manufactured overseas. So you got to look at it from a world point of view. And right now the carbon dioxide level is 420 something or other, 422.8. It goes as high as 425. I've seen it periodically, momentarily going up to 440. So it's nuts what it is right now. But you're supposed to be at 280 parts per million, not 425 or 420 parts per million above the 1880 baseline. It's never been, forget the baseline, it's never been above 300 parts per million in the last 800,000 years. So it's always been 280, 300, 250, somewhere in there, carbon dioxide. We're at 420 something, 424, probably hit about 426, 427 this year, before the year's over at least. So we're in big trouble. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas that traps all the long wave or short wave radiation coming in, striking the earth, and the long wave radiation can't get back out. So it's like you have a fever and you're pulling a blanket and another blanket and another blanket over yourself, and you can't get rid of the fever. You're not going to, and the eventuality is, if you don't watch yourself, is you're going to die. End of story. That's all there is to it. So carbon dioxide is all-time high. I saw one report that says it's the highest in 14 million years. Methane is at 1927 parts per billion, I think that is, and it should be at 667. So that's 3 times higher than what it should be. Nitrous oxide, which is a side effect of burning, sometimes burning firewood and coal and things like that, and other things. We're at 336, should be at 265. Carbon dioxide has grown since the 1880, 52%. We've had a 52% increase in carbon dioxide since they started keeping records. So what's coming? What is coming is actually more of the same, but a lot worse. You have permafrost all on the coast and in the boreal forest. The boreal forests have permafrost underneath, and you're going to start seeing drunken forests where they fall over or they playing catch on fire like they did in Canada. You're going to have massive fires in the rainforest of Amazon because our temperatures now are too high, and it's throwing the whole system off. We're going to have more drought, more wild weather. But I think in the Amazon, you're going to have more fires, which is less ability to protect itself. Therefore, you end up with a savanna and eventually a desert. The Amazon desert is what it's going to be, because the rain patterns get all shifted around. You see that now happening down there. I think today I was looking down at Uruguay or somewhere or other down there on Earth Knoll, and the temperature this morning was 98 degrees. I mean, it's insane. It's their summer, but to start off at 98 degrees before it's even daytime is nuts. So you're going to end up with forest fires in Canada, massive forest fires. It's setting up that you're going to end up with another situation just like last year. Maybe it'll change. Maybe we'll start getting rain there or something or other, but the whole system's out of whack. So you're going to get, with this 1.5 degrees increase, you're going to start getting these crazy events happening. You're going to get more glacier melt. Thwaites Glacier is really in jeopardy down in Antarctica, and if that goes, the whole system goes. West Antarctica, same situation, all the glaciers there, and you're looking at 12 feet of sea level rise. Greenland, another situation that it's going to reach a tipping point very soon if it hasn't already, and it's going to start melting like crazy, and then the Himalayas as well. So you're running into all these glaciers that are melting. Also, sea ice, they don't raise sea level, but what it does is calve off from the mainland. And it doesn't raise your sea level, but what it does is it subjects your area to less albedo, meaning the sun does no longer reflect into space. It hits the sea surface and then makes the ocean hotter, whereas before it would just make it colder because no sunlight would reach and it would be a cold region. So you end up with sea ice calving, you end up with warmer oceans, as I said, and the loss of albedo. So also ocean collapsing, the oceans are collapsing. They're 25 more acidic than when they first started keeping records. The oceans are 25% more acidic than what it was before. That causes a loss of shell life through carbonic acid and carbon dioxide coming into the oceans. With the oceans absorb 25% of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, the oceans are absorbing it and saving us, as well as 90% of our heat that we have in the atmosphere, the oceans are saving us. But when you get the carbon dioxide mixing in there, you get carbonic acid in the water, and then the shell life starts dying. So your clams and things like that, and your pteropods. Also, you end up with corals dying. Some die with acid, some die with heat, which is another thing that's coming for the oceans. Death of corals, aquatic life, and the biosphere collapse. You're getting all sorts of spin-offs, and we don't even know all the bad things that are going to happen, but none of them are good things that are happening right now. You get hurricanes, you get potential Category 5s. All hurricanes now have the potential of being Category 5s because the oceans are so warm. Acapulco was an example of that, where they had just a storm down there and it blew up to a Category 5 in 24 hours. They didn't expect that. Basically destroyed some of the town. I don't know if it destroyed all of the town. With more heat, you also get less wind. You get with the hurricanes, less wind shear because the jet stream is dying, and you get less wind. And the hurricanes, in order to form, need a lack of wind, meaning the top doesn't get sheared off of the hurricanes, and then it just becomes a Category 2 or back down to 0. There's not so much wind anymore, and so you could end up with Category 5s all over the place. Or Category 6, total city destroyers. Jet stream failure, you get into polar vortex failure. That's what's happening out here right now. We're getting a massive cold wave where we're in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, but over in Iowa, I was noticing earlier in the week, it was warmer at the North Pole than it was in Iowa. It's like minus 23 in the morning in Iowa, and it was 0 degrees up at the North Pole. So that's crazy. So you end up with the Coriolis effect, though, with the jet stream. You're going to have a certain amount of wind that continues with the jet stream because of the spin of the Earth, and the Earth is larger in the center as far as the equator goes. So when the Earth spins, the air in the center has to try to keep up with the air in the upper regions, the top end of the basketball, to give an example. So it has to go much faster than does the air up high. So you end up with a certain westerly airflow, from west to east, because the Earth is spinning from west to east. So what you end up with, real failures, though, you get these Rossby waves, which is what the polar vortex is all about. The weakened jet stream, you get these meandering currents in the atmosphere, and they're called Rossby waves, where you can end up with drought, flood, fire, cold outbreaks from Siberia. And this is all part of climate change. People go, oh, this isn't part of climate change. No, it actually is, because the polar jet is no longer intact to keep the cold air trapped as it used to be trapped. And a lot of it is caused by the Hadley cells, the Ferrel cells, and the polar cells. You're not only getting the Coriolis effect of the wind going this way, you get this circulation going, which is you have your Hadley cell from the equator to the mid-latitudes that goes, cold air comes down, heats up, and goes up towards the upper regions, up towards Maine and Canada, the United Kingdom, things like that, and dives back down with cold air. And you get these opposite cells that are Ferrel cells, which does the opposite. It's like three gears turning together. And so there's less circulation going on because you have less of a temperature difference from the south to the north. And you have these three different cell regions, and the last cell region is the polar cell. So this is kind of easy broken down stuff. I'm not telling it just right, but so with that you get the bending. The Earth turns, so it bends the cells, which accentuates the jet stream and creates our weather basically. Well, if you have a jet stream dying because the cells aren't working the way they were, then you end up with all sorts of weird things, such as this polar jet outbreak here from the north. You end up with the vortex is no longer able to hold back the cold air. You get these Rossby waves going on, and then the cells die. And what I noticed, this is my theory, okay, check it out. I don't think anyone's ever said this. I always have these theories every 2 weeks or so. So you have these cells that are slowing down because of the heating of the environment. But if you look at the ocean currents, it's the same situation. You have the dying of the glaciers, which no longer is the water supersaturated with saline. It's largely fresh water going into the oceans, slowing down the currents, which just like the air currents, the ocean currents are slowing down as well, such as the AMOC and things like that, Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. But you're going to have a slowing of these currents, and this is a big problem because just like the air currents slowing down, which changes our weather we see here, it also changes how the oceans react and become more stratified as far as heat goes. So if you don't have the overturning circulation, you end up with a situation that there's no more oxygenation of the water. The water no longer dives down deep, brings up nutrients, and causes phytoplankton blooming, and oxygenation goes back down. It's a whole cycle, like gears, just like I was talking about with the Hadley cells and the Ferrel cells and the polar cells. You no longer have this circulation going on, so the oceans end up dying. And when the oceans heat, they become more apoxic, meaning less oxygen in the water. So it's a whole thing. A system failure is what we're doing right now. And I'll get into why we're doing this, and I'm going to lay into it again as I always do, and I'm going to tell you the truth as to what's happening, and I'm not pulling back on the punches because it's too late to worry about hurt feelings and worried about political parties and worrying about this or that or the kid's future and everything like that. You got to hear these truths so you know to take action, and I don't know if it's too late or not, but if you don't take action, it's definitely too late. And you know, the Irish and the Scottish tend to not give up so quickly as do other cultures, and you know, we're not going to roll over and play dead just yet. So the risk is a cell disruption, not only in the air currents but also in the ocean currents. You get the heat into the oceans, melting glaciers, higher freshwater content in the whole thing, slowing of the currents, and then the AMOC collapse, which will be devastating. It'll change things up, and who knows which direction it goes. Some people think that the North Pole area will go cold all of a sudden, but I'm thinking that that's not going to happen because the carbon dioxide concentration and the greenhouse gas concentration, including the water vapor in the atmosphere, is getting more and more as the air heats up. 7% increase for every 1 degree Celsius increase in air temperature. So 7% increase in water vapor, we basically had a 14% increase in water vapor than what we had before. So you get less oxygen in the water, you get less vertical mixing, as I said, and then you end up with death in the oceans because the animals die, they sink to the bottom of the ocean, and you get putrefaction, and you run the risk of hydrogen sulfide eruptions. And 510 million years ago, half of sea life was wiped out by hydrogen sulfide gases, they think, as well as deoxygenation. The things go hand in hand. And what animals were there? Well, the trilobites, if you look at them, they're really cool little creatures. But you had this upwelling of gunk, so you had this blooming of these little tiny microbes that eat the dead animals, and then they go up and then they die, and they deoxygenate the water even more. So you have a whole circular situation that it's a tipping point, and you can't keep up with it is what happens. So right now, the United States, as I talked before, had a record output of oil in the history of the earth. No other nation has ever produced so much oil as what the United States did. Who's in charge? Joe Biden and the Democrats, as well as Republicans. They want this thing. They want to keep drill. Donald Trump, when he wins, because he probably will, the way things are going, he's going to drill as well. So it's the knife for the knife. There's no answer to this. So this year will be the hottest year ever, 2024. Hello. Say hello to the world. Hello, world. That's my wife. This year, Tanya. So El Nino is going to kick in big time. You're going to see the results of El Nino in 2024 kick in a massive amount. It often happens when it first erupts, and then the following year is the massive effects. You have maritime pollution has been reduced with sulfur in the atmosphere, sulfur dioxide, so you no longer have the aerosol masking effects. You have the water vapor in the atmosphere, which is another greenhouse gas caused by the volcano of Hunga Tonga, as well as higher temperatures, 14% increase in that, as well as the sun with solar activity increasing, which should peak around 2025. So the dumb kids in the class are leading the classroom. The dumb kids, the kids in the back of the class are the ones causing the disruption. Our politicians, our people that are having de facto denialism of climate change. Like they know what's happening, but they don't want to do anything. They don't want to do broadcasts. They don't want to protest. They don't want to talk to their friends and family. They don't want to ostracize anyone. They don't want to upset anyone. That's called de facto denialism. You know something bad's happening. You refuse to do anything about it. And then you have the overt denialists, which say it's not happening, it's a hoax, it doesn't matter if it is happening, it's not going to affect us, humans cannot affect the environment. It's impossible. So the dumb kids in the class are leading the classroom right now. There are no teachers in charge, no one's taking control, no one's telling the truth as to what's happening, and we're on a road to hell. The leaders, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, are dolts at best. They're idiots. And at very worst, they're sinister. I mean, they're sinister evil as to what's going on. How can you know this information? How can you not know this information and not take action and continue on this path, digging this gunk out of the ground that's going to end us all? It's sinister as to what's going on. And y'all are voting for these two knuckleheads and these parties that have policies that are going to kill us. And you need to stop it and vote for a third party. I don't care if it's, libertarians are about that too. They want to drill the hell out of everything. So the only one left is the Green Party in the United States, and that's Jill Stein running for president. I know you don't want to hear it. She can't win. She can't win because you won't vote for her. The cage door is open. You're the bird trapped. You're choosing to stay in your cage. Get out of it. So the two parties, the actions and their policies will definitely kill us. This is the road we're on. I don't know whether it's going to be in 2026, 2036, 2046, but by 2050, we're in deep trouble if we're surviving at all. And I'm thinking it's sooner rather than later as to what's going on. So third parties, Jill Stein, the cage door is open. The choice to not vote for these people is your choice. If you're choosing to stay with Biden and Trump, you're committing murder and suicide at the same time. So I'll catch you next week. That'll be number 270, Climate Change Emergency Protest. I told you I'd be honest with you.